Hi YouTubers, welcome back to Vintage Fashion Hat Chat. I'm Norma Shepherd, the director of the Mobile Millinery Museum and the author of 5 books on vintage fashion, including 1000 hats. And I'm doing something a little differently today. Usually, of course, I will be showcasing hats, and that is our main activity with the museum, but we also present vintage fashion exhibits using historic costume. And of course, when we do, we accessorize it with the period pieces that would have been worn with them. So whether it's jewelry, handbags, boots, parasols, whatever it is. But today I want to show you some pieces that I picked up that from Goodwill. I had just decided to see if they had any jewelry jars and took a little trip down to my local Goodwill, and they had 5 or 6, and I'll tell you, they did not look promising. They were small, they weren't expensive, but none of them looked like they really had anything too exciting in them, although I did spot some green beads in one of them, so I thought, well, I'll take that home. And the first thing out of the jar was this Coppola Topo vintage collar choker necklace with the pearls. You can see that the metal is showing its age, but it has great style and is a good addition to our jewelry stash. So that was first out of the jar, and I found that very promising. Now, I hadn't dug down to the green yet, but I did find this also, this other vintage necklace. This one is a double strand of glass beads. The bow motif clasp is very charming, and the beads themselves are quite beautiful. So I was pleased to find this piece. Now, moving along, the next thing that I spotted in the jar was something more contemporary but still vintage, and this is this choker, double strand of pearls with this very substantial rhinestone and faceted glass oval. Now, this is marked, but I really can't read it. I'll have to do a little bit of research on this, but it's very well made, quite substantial. All of the little rhinestones, this is the clasp, they are all intact. And the earrings, which are also marked, were also in the jar. So I would consider, having purchased the jar, I think for between $15 and $19, that this little parure was definitely a score. Now there was more vintage. This old brooch is not marked. The rhinestones are all intact. I think the color is quite charming. It almost looks like orange jello to me. Orangey stones that are faceted. This is the back, gold tone. A lovely, lovely vintage pin. There were more vintage pins. This one looks to be sort of a Victorian revival. It's not original to the period, but it will look fine when we are sort of setting the mood of that period. I also discovered this in the jar. This is a newer piece, but it still is an interesting cameo. It is surrounded with little seed beads and is an unmarked brooch. Another brooch that I was very pleased to find, and I think that this one is, oh, this is marked Austria. These Aurora Borealis stones are really sparkly. It's a great piece. And in the jar was one matching earring. So you know I went back and bought another jar, and luckily, yes, the mate was in that second jar. So I did really well. Also managed to get a Sherman pen. It's marked on the back. These black glass stones are lovely. Sherman is a Canadian brand. Highly collectible, similar to Eisenberg. It's unusual in the black signed pen. There was a shell necklace in this jar. This is gilded. And it's pretty much a choker. It's lovely and cool, these beads, with a barrel clasp. And I think I will put it on our millinery mannequin, who as yet remains nameless. We haven't settled on a name yet. There have been some suggestions, and I'm still open to more suggestions. So I think this piece is quite a lovely summer piece. Now, there were also a set of shell earrings. They don't match the necklace. These ones are painted, edged in silver. That's the interior. They're on hooks. Unmarked, of course. A set of men's cufflinks, unmarked. Lovely condition. Mother of pearl. So I was really enjoying going through this jar. I was pleased to find this rhinestone pen. It's unmarked, but it is a lovely piece. Lovely condition. A pair of vintage beaded clip-ons, unmarked. A little pair of silver tone with lucite dangles, very pretty. I'm also happy with these. These look to be, I would say, maybe the 80s. There's a left and a right. These are clip-ons, and they're marked Kind. And we're not done. I also found these lovely gold beads, and they're on a metal chain. Gorgeous. They're light, and I really think that they would layer nicely with my Monet. Of course, the Monet was not in jar. But I just thought together they would look quite lovely. I also have a napier that double strand napier that, you know, would also layer beautifully with these. And speaking of napier, the green beads that I had spotted through the glass turn out to be this wonderful signed napier choker. In beautiful condition. Don't think I'm not going to wear this myself. Great. Awesome. It's so beautiful. But you know what? I'm not done. There was one more piece. One more piece. And that, I'm sure you can tell me. Look at these beautiful big beads that are not at the bottom. They're off to the side. These gorgeous findings. And no surprise when I examine the clasp. And this, of course, is marked Miriam Haskell. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, so there you have it. I did really well, and I felt I had to share that. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, hit like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. And I will see you next time. I post Mondays and Thursdays. In the meantime,